11 days away from Super Bowl 60, Dan is going virtual to show you exactly how Sam Darnold is reading defenses better than ever before. You don't want to miss that in POVR. Plus, shocking news from yesterday. Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. We have Adam Schefter and Hall of Fame voter Sal Paolantonio here to tell you why. And the latest as the final few head coaching jobs get filled, which is where we start, right? Because we have a new head coach to talk about. The Browns have made their decision. Adam, what's the latest in Cleveland?
Laura, the Cleveland Browns have hired former Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken, which means he won't be going to New York to be the Giants' offensive coordinator. Instead, he'll be leaving Baltimore to become the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns, who chose Monken over the Rams' passing game coordinator, Nate Shieldhouse, and over their own defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, which creates its own set of issues. But the Ravens have locked in on the offensive side of the football. By bringing in Monken, they have somebody to run their offense and not have to worry about going out to get a coach that they feel like could elevate the offense. They feel like their defense is strong enough to go on. They'd like to bring back Jim Schwartz, even if he doesn't want to be back right now, but they wanted somebody to help elevate the offense. They believe Todd Monken will be able to do that for the Browns instead of the New York Giants this year, and so they have now hired Todd Monken as the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns.
Adam with us all show long. Interesting so far. For the majority, we've seen these teams go with experience for these head coaching jobs. Hawk and Dan here. Hawk, what do you think of Monken's fit for the Browns, specifically an organization you know well?
Yeah, I think it fits for what they're doing now. I think Monken's a good coach, right? Like, I think even with his offense, and you saw with Lamar, you've seen it at his height when Lamar was an MVP and they had one of the top offenses. And you've seen it sputter a little bit after Lamar got hurt and, you know, some of the back channel issues. But the thing about Monken is he has familiarity with the organization, was an offensive coordinator there. And I think for what he does offensively and what the Browns have done traditionally is they're making the personnel decisions. They're hopeful that they can have a defensive coordinator like Schwartz stick around. I guess that remains to be seen. But if you know that's taken care of, personnel is taken care of, we need a head coach who can command a room, has been coaching in the NFL for a long time, and then 3 words: development of offense, elevation of offense, and stability of offense. And that puts them closer than where they were previously if they can do those things.
Yeah, the initial reaction I had when I saw the news break was, whew, what a massive loss for the Giants.
Yeah.
What a massive loss for the New York Giants. We'll get into that. For the Browns, Monken's a good coach. It feels cautious. It feels a little bit scared. That those two things can be the case. This is an organization that had the opportunity. I can't imagine what it's like to be a Browns fan, because it had the opportunity to, like, let's do something different. Let's do something that maybe other people aren't trying. And I understand the fear of maybe hiring someone that might be too young, or because I remember when Joe Brady was starting to get interviews, it was his Rolodex isn't big enough with assistants. I remember when Kevin Demoff hired Sean McVay and hearing him verbally say, I might be a year or two early, but
really
I could
fast,
not
was
wait.
there a Joe Brady or a potential Sean McVay in this cycle?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Grant Udinsky, you know, who I understand goes back to Jacksonville, Shieldhouse from L.A. It was just the opportunity to maybe do something that gives Cleveland Browns fans some hope of, all right, I have no idea if this is going to be good or the right choice, but there was maybe some excitement. You're attached. I mean, is there excitement? That doesn't mean it won't work out.
I think it varies across the board. I feel like, to your point, you go into the process early on. Monken was a guy that not a lot of people requested interviews for, but the Browns were very early in their interest with him. I mean, they requested that when he was still a Baltimore Raven. So that gave you some inclination that it was something that they were really considering, you know, based on probably their experience with him in the building. From a fan perspective, I don't know if there was going to be a hire with the options that they had available to him. That was going to bring an excitement.
Sure.
And that is the Cleveland Brown fan experience, and rightfully so, based on the results that haven't been there.
Before Shefty gets in, don't you believe, though, that the team, and I know it sounds outrageous, is a little bit closer to being respectable than maybe the national narrative? The defense is loaded. offensive talent's missing.
Well, what do you do about quarterback? I mean,
that's going to be a huge part of this, and how much Monken wants. Is it Shedeur? Is it Gabriel? Is it one of those 2 first-round picks?
Well, that's the point. They have a really great young offensive core. You see the running backs, you see the tight end. Monken runs a ton of 21 personnel and does that really, really well. I think for the Cleveland Browns, it's like if we can keep our defense the way it is, which is one of the tops in the league, and we can have a head coach who, again, can command, keep the stability that you've had in some respects in the locker room, but elevate this offense to get the most out of the tools that they have and the players that they have. That's what's been missing. I do think that there was more meat on the bone offensively for the Cleveland Browns over the past years, even if it wasn't a bunch of world-beating talent. And I think that's what the Browns are after, somebody who can stabilize that piece of their team.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see about the quarterback angle of this. Adam, you heard Dan say his first reaction was about the Giants side of this. What do you expect the Giants to do now when it comes to that OC position?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I think a couple of these teams are in this situation. The New York Giants thought there was a real possibility that Todd Monken would be their offensive coordinator. So they're out now looking at names and candidates that can come in and take over this job. The Baltimore Ravens at one point thought that Joe Brady would be a possibility. He got the Buffalo Bills head coaching job, so he's not going to Baltimore. So the Ravens are looking. So it's interesting to me right now. We've got the Ravens searching for an offensive coordinator and their former head coach, John Harbaugh, searching for an offensive coordinator at the same time. And we also have a team in the Cleveland Browns here that hired a coach who's going to be 60 years old on February 5th. The only time he's ever been a head coach was in college in 2013 to 15 for Southern Mississippi. That's his only head coaching experience. He has not been a head coach in the NFL level. It's something he's always wanted to do. He's wanted to be a head coach. He has essentially aspired for this day. He was actually a finalist for the University of Michigan head coaching job that went to Kyle Whittingham last month. And so this is a situation where basically Todd Monken has got the chance of a lifetime, and where we've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers hire a veteran in Mike McCarthy, and we saw what it meant for him to get that job in the city that he was from. I think Todd Monken is going to be similarly moved by finally getting a head coaching job near the age of 60 in Cleveland, and brings a lot of veteran experience to that franchise now.
So in relation to the Giants, because I do think this is massively impactful for them. This is a significant loss for Jackson Dart. I think the first call that I think the Giants have to make is now to Mike LaFleur, little brother of Matt, who's I know in the conversation for Arizona, was with the New York Jets. I want that type of system, and if he's willing, because he's a lateral move, but he doesn't call the plays in LA, okay? So Mike LaFleur would be one. I think the second name that we'll probably hear is Charlie Weiss Jr., who was the play caller at Ole Miss. And I love Charlie Weiss Jr. I think he's brilliant. How much does he really have a feel for NFL offense? I think those are worthy, at least, questions and concerns that have to be asked. Nate Shieldhouse, Davis Webb. So those would be like the 3 or 4 names that if you're the Giants, it becomes a thing of urgency right now that you can't miss out on other names now.
I hear you on Charlie Weiss Jr. And listen, I'm not saying he's not going there, but I was with him for like a 3-week stretch during the college football playoff. He was adamant that his next stop at LSU is where he wants to be, and Lane Kiffin's done a lot to try to hold on to him there. But the pairing back up with Jackson Dart is interesting. All right, we have some